Hello, hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk Ray Bradbury, the show here on Let's Talk Entertainment, where beginning back in 2018, I've been attempting to read and review each of the roughly 600 short stories written by the late, great Ray Bradbury. This month, we are looking at his 1997 collection, Driving Blind, which features 21 short stories, all but 4 of them original to that year. And today we're up to story number 3 of 21, which is Hello, I Must Be Going. Hello, I Must Be Going is a reference to a Groucho Marx performed song from 1930s film Animal Crackers, which I don't know that I've seen. I may have seen it, but it may have been a long time ago, so I'll have to keep an eye out for that. Films like that spend a lot of time appearing on TMC, yeah, one of my favorite channels actually on cable television. If you're new to the channel, the way these reviews work is I do a brief synopsis of what happens in the story, and then I wrap with just a very light analysis for what I think it all means. Is it a good story? What did I take away from it? Is it worth your time to read? And then we get on with our days. So, Henry Grossbock shows up at Steve Ralph's door. He's an old friend. Henry is 5 foot tall. He's wearing a suit that he normally only wears when he's performing in concerts, and he looks pale and sickly, and Steve sort of gives him an odd expression when he shows up at the door, but ultimately Steve invites him in because they are in fact old friends and they share a good stiff drink. Steve then reveals to Henry that he has been dead for 4 years. Yes, he's been dead for 4 years, and here he is showing up at his door, fresh from the graveyard. Henry is upset because his wife has stopped crying for him daily, and she seems to be moving on with her life after 4 years, and Steve sort of tries to explain to him that, you can't expect her to grieve eternally, You've been gone for 4 years. She has to move on with her life, and she's in fact moving on with her life. She's not dating anyone, but she seems to be taking dance classes or pottery or something like that. He mentions, I can't remember exactly what classes it was, but she is finding meaningful enjoyment out of her life post-husband. Before Henry leaves, Steve promises that he will call Evelyn, that's the wife's name, he's going to call Evelyn and pretend that he is writing a book about Henry's life and that he needs some notes and some pictures for his work, and so this would theoretically dredge up old memories and make her cry a little bit for him because he wants, even in death, he wants to feel that he is needed. Henry then leaves, and as he promised, Steve calls Evelyn. And that's it. There seems to be a lot of comedies in these later Bradbury collections of short stories, and this, of course, is another comedy. This one references, as I pointed up before, Groucho Marx, who is very much out of my wheelhouse. However, Bradbury was a lifelong fan of the cinema, and no doubt Marx would have been a sizable inspiration for him or influence on him. A lot of his comedies, these short stories, sort of read a bit like comedy skits, and they sort of have that snappy dialogue and that sort of back and forth that the early comedy groups such as the Marx Brothers were known for. I do think that this story might actually work a little bit better if it was actually performed like a skit as part of a TV show, or perhaps like a 1970s era variety show. I think that may have been perfect medium for this story. On paper, it's maybe not quite as good, but I think that there's enough there that you can sort of imagine what it would be like to see it on stage. And oddly enough, it did make me think a little bit about the, was it 1988-89 film Scrooge with Bill Murray, the one about the modern riff on a Christmas Carol, rather, where the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future visit him, but they're all like people he knew from his life, and they're all decaying and funny and snappy, and it sort of reminds me a lot of that film, actually, which is sort of a weird connection because there actually isn't any Christmas theme here either. But yeah, there it is. Hello, I Must Be Going. Out of the 3 stories I've read so far, I think this one's probably right in the middle, I would say. But there you have it. I think it's worth your time. I think you should have fun with it, especially if you ever think about relationships and sort of how people might feel about you after they've passed out of your life. Not necessarily, or after you've passed out of their lives, not necessarily in death, but just in separation. Old flings People who you at one point may have saw yourself sharing your life with, but it ultimately didn't happen, and you sort of wonder if they think about you just in the same way that they sometimes pop up in your memories. So next time, we'll be moving on to story number 4 of 21, which will be our 288th story review overall, which is called House Divided. Be sure to subscribe and check in a couple of days to see what that is all about. Thank you, and I'll see you again soon.